Hi, and welcome to episode 19 of The Well. I'm Drew.
And I'm Kat, and I can't believe it's episode 19, actually.
I know. And I'm super excited to have another guest today.
Yes, I am
Really
too.
exciting.
I'm very excited to hear some of the inner workings of the topic of what
So,
this guest does.
so Catherine, why don't you
Yes.
introduce our esteemed guest?
Sure. Yes. No, we'd love to welcome Shampaigne Graves. She is actually out of Dallas, Texas, and Shampaigne has quite the resume. So I'm really excited. She is an owner of her own business. She's got a great personal story, and I'd love to hand it to her to introduce herself and tell us more about her. Shampaigne?
Yeah. Welcome, Champagne.
Thanks so much, Kat and Drew, for having me on. I feel like such a cool kid to be at the table with you guys.
We like that.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, I'm such a cool customer right now. Yeah, so like you guys said, I'm champagne like the drink, even though my mother doesn't do that. I'm actually named after a jazz singer, Evelyn Champagne King. So just
Wow.
to get that one
Okay.
right out of there, right
Yes.
out of the questioning. Yeah, so I do own a couple of businesses. My first one is Boldify. I started that with $20.
Mm-hmm.
And just a dream. $20 in a dream has been my shtick for about 8 years now. And I started out with the mission to help women start and grow businesses, even though I needed someone to help me start and grow my own business. So, I was kind of building the airplane as I was flying it, so to speak.
Yes.
And here I am 8 years later, and I'm at the point where I'm getting together a board, hiring on some core partners. And so that's really great. And back in like 2022, I started my second business formally, and I do women's consumer psychology and behavior. So, why women buy? I work with Fortune 300 through 500 companies, conferences, shops, the whole circuits. I try to keep myself busy.
Sounds it. My goodness.
No, I never would have thought. It sounds like a lot. It sounds amazing though. So how did you get
Thank
into all
you.
this?
Honestly and truly, I don't want to get anything dark or anything like that, but my best friend actually
Right.
passed away in 2017.
Oh,
And
sorry to hear that.
he wanted to be an entrepreneur. It was always his dream to, own multiple businesses. And he was a very lively person, big personality. And so I feel like I just kind of took on his dream because I was at a time where I was post grad, lost. We all know that kind of story and how that
Yes.
goes. And, losing your best friend at the age of 24 is not easy. And so, really, I just took that moment to be like, okay, if Harrison was still here, how would he go forward? How would he do things in a big way? Because, our thing was YOLO, you only live once.
Yes.
So we need to make sure that we're doing it really big. And so I just went for it. I was like, I'm going to do this thing and start putting myself out there and look like a fool, but very, very, but now I get to go on cool shows like y'all's and people kind of think that I know what I'm doing. So that's good.
Hey, fake it till you make it, right? Fake it till you make
Confidence
it.
is
Absolutely.
everything. That
Love
sounds
it.
awesome. So talk to us a little bit about Boldify. Tell us more,
Yeah.
specifically, what do you do?
Well,
What is it that you
yeah,
do?
before you jump into that though, sorry,
Uh-huh.
Kat, I'm going to be the interrupting
Whatever.
cow.
No, I'm kidding.
I was looking through your bio, and it's an interesting kind of progression from kinesiology to where you are now. So, what kind of led you away from that, or inspired you to lean in? Do you lean into that kinesiology background or anything? Because that's not an easy thing to do,
No.
right? Kinesiology is tough.
Yeah.
Yes, it
Yeah.
is.
And I was on the pre-med track. I really thought that I was going to be a doctor.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Of course, we all. And then I took something called organic chemistry. It's what
Yes.
they say separates the MDs from, I don't know, the people who teach or
Uh-huh.
I don't know, do something else. I'm
Right.
one of those something else. Basically, I graduated with my kinesiology degree, thought that I was going to go to dental school, did a bunch of odds and ends jobs. And, honestly, life happened to me when I was doing my kinesiology work. I just found that I really was passionate at first, more in like the health coaching side. And from
Mm.
there, I went to coaching school myself because I wanted to, be a professional at this and not just be like some random girl saying, here's what you do with your life, especially because I was in my early 20s at the time. I mean, I got a lot of crap when I started my business because I was so young and I was in the coaching industry. People are like, what kind of life advice can you give me? You barely lived life. And, I actually had to wear my heart onto my sleeve a little bit, especially after my best friend passed away, because, I actually ended up going to coaching school after he passed away.
Mm.
And I just had this thing where I was like, okay, I'm dedicating the certification to him. And wherever my career goes forth, it's all in the name of what he inspired me to be. He always believed in me more than I necessarily even believed in myself. And so he's kind of been this person that has always been in the background. I still feel like I have a relationship with him, even though he's not here. I mean, I'm still close to his mom, his sister. I was close to his father, even though he passed away as well. And they came to my wedding. And so,
Aw.
Wow.
these are people that are very, very close to me. But tracking back to kinesiology, I was not paid what I was worth. And I'm sure that most
Mm.
people that go into kinesiology think the same thing. Health coaching for the low price of $20 an hour is no small feat.
Yeah.
So I just felt like, no, I can build something myself and pay myself way more.
Good for you. Good for you. Love it. That is great.
Yeah. Actually,
Thank you.
kind of reminds me of throughout, I think, Drew and I, our careers, hearing people talk about how they apply to different jobs and people want to underpay you. And
Mm.
you actually, Drew used to tell me all the time, know your worth and know what your value is. And, if you have the option, don't take less than what you've committed all this hard work to. So I think that's an important message. I hear people talk about all the time, oh, should I ask for a raise? Should I ask for a promotion? And if people are doing the work, they should be paid for it. So completely agree. And I love that you've been able to say, no, I'm gonna go on this track. I'm gonna do this differently.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I mean, it was a rough road. I just knew very early in life that I was always supposed to be making a lot of money, to be
Yeah.
quite honest. I was like, my name's Champagne.
Yeah.
I'm not a cheap person, It's
I
it's an
love that.
expensive life out here.
Yes.
I needed to get on it. And I mean, even my dad always told me growing up, like I wanted to be an artist. And he was like,
Yes.
well, artists usually starve and you like diamond necklaces.
Oh,
So I
yeah.
don't know how that's going to
Comfortable
work out for
lifestyle.
you. So, I switched to marketing and branding.
Oh,
So,
yeah. Yep.
it's there, but it's closer to that golden kind of pot, lucky pot and stuff like that.
Uh-huh.
So,
Yeah, my dad was very similar. He was like, "Oh, I loved art growing up." And he's like, "Why don't you look into graphic design?" And I was like, "Oh,
yes.
okay, I don't really love graphic design, but, he's like, it'll be a good salary for you, you can do art on the side." So it's funny. It's funny, because I'm glad that I did that
Hmm.
because it's kind of opened doors to UX and technology and some of the other things that I normally probably wouldn't have done. But it is good to make money so you can have a comfortable lifestyle.
Yes.
Absolutely.
That
Yes.
is true.
Absolutely. And then to give back too, I'm a huge
Oh,
giver
yeah.
and I love giving back. And, I love giving of my time, but my number one love language is gifts. And more than getting gifts, I love giving gifts. Not just the material. I love making nice experiences for
Oh,
my
I
friends
love
and
that.
family. I love, traveling with them, giving them something really unique and thoughtful. And I think the love language of gifts is often misunderstood as being materialistic, but it's for me, it's not necessarily about that. It's about just capturing the moments and having a really great time.
That's beautiful. I love that.
It
I'm very
is.
big into
Now I
experiences.
see why the two of you clicked, because Catherine is very similar to what you just described. So that is,
Yeah.
and I love how, you kind of knew your worth and you're like, I'm not going to find that in the market, so I'm going to create my own market, which is great.
Yes.
That is the true entrepreneurial spirit. And I love that someone inspired you and believed and dreamed up in you, right? Dreamed you up and pretty much set you on your path and with that inspiration. So what a beautiful origin story, right? If we
Yeah.
Mhm.
go to our comic book heroes. But that is awesome. So before I interrupted Catherine, you were about to tell us about Boldify and kind of how that came about and kind of what it's about.
Yes.
Yeah. So Boldify came about in 2018. I started out with $20 and Shopify subscription, the free trial, by the way. I was not ready for that 19.99 to come off of my credit card. And so I started out with a free trial of Shopify, free Printify, subscription as well. And I created a t-shirt line just wanting to support women in business. It had like kind of a charity kind of model in which there was a portion of the proceeds that would go towards like innovator
Mm.
accelerators, incubators, things like that. And that was really cool for a while. And alongside that, I built kind of a brunch and learn model as well.
Oh,
And
nice.
that was very nice and cool. I brought in experts every month and, we grew the community to like over 10,000 across all social media
Wow.
platforms and
That's
things like
huge.
that. And I really just felt like this thing was becoming a lot bigger than me. I don't remember the term in business, but growth without the pay to support it is definitely where I was at. And so I had to slow things down, start to really figure out my genius zones and start delegating and
Mhm.
those kinds of things. And the business refined itself as I allowed other people to come in and put in some sweat equity and things like that. And I'm still doing it today. After COVID, we switched to an online model and we never really got the magic back from those brunch and learns.
Mm.
And so right now I've gone through a restructuring process in which we're creating a micro school and a training center. And we are teaching women not only how to start businesses, but once when they get mature in business, coming back and teaching them how to diversify their income streams and things like that, always bringing in new experts. So I'm hiring a board right now. I'm getting more core partners on board, and I'm very excited about that and just letting them kind of take ownership of that business while I focus on my new baby, which is my consumer behavior and psychology work.
Wow. Wow.
That's
So,
amazing.
yeah, you are so articulate. I love how you really answer these questions with such clarity and
Mhm.
and vision. But something you used a term, I haven't heard this, and I'm hearing it. I'm hearing the micro more, micro something. You called it a micro school. Is that something new
Yes.
in the industry, or am I just old and out of touch?
No, that is a new concept, and I didn't necessarily know that that's what I was doing either until I found out about it. There's actually a gaming micro school here in Dallas
Oh,
called
wow.
Esports, if I'm not
Mhm.
mistaken. And their founder is named Danny. And I met him at Dallas Startup Week or through a business contact, and he built a micro school for gaming.
Wow.
And he's got a really great thing going on in DeSoto. And I believe he's been able to work with a lot of large sponsors, get these gamers to the point where they are, going into these large tournaments and things like that. Now, I didn't know gaming got that serious, me personally. But to see these arenas is very impressive, and he works with these kids. And I'm like, that's so awesome. Adults need something like that, but for business, you
Mm.
know? And so, not everybody is meant for an MBA. Not everybody is meant to go back to school. We're definitely seeing with this younger generation a move completely away from college. Now, whether or not that's a good idea, I don't know, because I love the social aspect of college. I mean,
Right.
and then I was also lucky because my parents are military veterans and I got the GI Bills. I didn't necessarily have to worry about student loans. I was just, partying and studying for free.
Right.
And so I was living it up, having the best time of my life. And so I always thought that the social aspect of college was really great. But back to Boldify, because I can go down many little avenues. Back to Boldify. Yeah. So when I saw what Danny was building, I was like, this is what I'm building, a micro school, something that is an answer to people who don't want to get an MBA, but they want to jump into entrepreneurship as soon as possible. And it is a women centered curriculum. However, I think of it like a women's college. Men can go there, but a lot of the case studies and things that we do are based off of the challenges that women specifically face in business.
Awesome. Awesome. I am I am locked into this. I love the direction it's good. So I have a coaching background as well. So I didn't even know this existed in Dallas. So I have been trying to find other avenues to continue to expand my business as well, our business. And it's very interesting to hear how you've approached this. So I love that. It's refreshing. Let's put it that way. Because I feel like you said COVID really disrupted the industry in a way that
Right.
we kind of got shook around and not sure how to pivot, right? Everything went remote. And I feel like coaching is a very intimate face-to-face experience with one-to-one or one-to-many. So going remote it removed that magic element from things. So I love the fact that you were able to find your way back and kind of expand on that. That's really,
Absolutely.
it's great.
I agree. Like that human connection is so important. And I got really good at doing it virtually. I mean, I think that we're connecting right now. I mean, I think we're jamming a little bit. I don't know.
Uh-huh.
Absolutely.
But there's something about being in person and having that connection. And I'm sure you guys understand that as well. When it comes to coaching, there's definitely more impact that happens with the clients, more transformation that happens when, especially I feel like in a group setting where everyone can mastermind together.
I love that.
Absolutely. Thought you were going to say something, Catherine.
I was
Sorry.
going to ask another question because
Yeah,
I
go for it.
love hearing about how you've thought through your businesses and the models and how you approach the work. And the women's consumer research to me is fascinating. So I'd love to hear more about how you approach that work. What is it exactly that you do? I'm sure you've come across some very interesting patterns doing this type of work. So would love to hear more about that.
Yeah. So I was doing this work with Boldify, figuring out customer avatars. Most women, when they're starting a business, they're selling to themselves. So it's women selling to women.
Right.
And right, we're our ideal client avatar most times. We're solving a problem that we had ourselves. And so I was doing a lot of that work when it came to, hey, once when the business is built, you're not the ideal client avatar anymore. And so what I figured out is that women, we have a very different buying process. And what really inspired me to start doing this work on a formal level was actually back in 2022, my sister passed away.
Gosh.
And she had just had a baby and she was on social media and she was just kind of in that postpartum spiral where she was just paying attention to, the Instagram models and things like that. And she unfortunately got sucked into this, I believe, very like wicked social media campaign targeting new mothers for mommy makeovers. Unfortunately, she passed away and she had children. She had three, and she was the primary caretaker for her oldest too. And so me and my mom took them on, and it's been about 3 years now. And so when that really happened to me, and through the discovery of what happened to my sister, I just was like, what the hell, this flimsy little Canva campaign. Like, I mean, I know it's like, I know
Right.
it is kind of something where you like giggle a little bit where it's like kind of dark, but it's like, wow, like really, this flimsy
Right.
ass Canva campaign is the reason why my life has been flipped upside down.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was just like, this should not happen to anybody ever. I was working in marketing and I was like, this is bully marketing. Why is this even allowed on the platforms? Like,
Wow.
why
Yeah.
should you be able to market something as serious as plastic surgery in such lackadaisical way?
Mm-hmm.
Just really kind of bent my mind. And I just felt like I had resources and skill sets in a certain kind of way, which was research, marketing, and sales. And I was like, if people feel like they have to manipulate in order to get that conversion, I need to be the person that has the solution that shows them how to do that without having to manipulate,
Mm.
without having to bully, and being empathy forward.
That's awesome. And it's interesting that we're having this conversation because Drew and I have talked about my background being in marketing to a certain extent. He and I have talked a lot about marketing campaigns. And when you really dig deeper, it is to a certain degree a manipulation. It's presenting something in a certain way. And I've even gone as far to say it's a lie. And you do have to be careful about how you market things and how you're communicating messages. So it can be used for nefarious purposes, I think. So, I mean, I know it sounds
Absolutely.
silly, but it
Yeah.
can be,
Oh yeah, absolutely. They don't
people
say
get
build a
sucked into it.
cult, what do they say, a cult brand or a cult following. Yes, like a cult following for no reason.
Right. Yes.
When you do look at cult leaders, they are people that a lot of the times they come from sales backgrounds. They were peddling
Right.
like magazines or something beforehand, and
Yeah.
they figured out how to sell this crappy product and get people to believe in this crappy product. And they were like, you know what? Like, I should start my own religion. That
Yes.
would be cool
Yeah.
too.
And
Like,
it's like
I could do it.
one step further. It started out selling magazines and now it's recruiting people for a cult. So, I mean, it's a slippery slope.
Yeah,
I
Absolutely.
do see that. And I think there is a place absolutely for what you're doing right now.
influence is powerful, as we
Yeah,
are learning
Absolutely.
in this age of influencers, right? So everyone's an influencer. Everyone's an influencer.
true. So
True.
the work that you're doing, what have you seen in the market with the research you've done?
Yeah. So what I've seen basically is that women are a slower sale, but when we are
Mm,
sold to, we are more likely to stay loyal, right? So, and then
that
not
makes
only are we
sense.
staying loyal, we're bringing our family and our friends aboard because we do most of the shopping for our families. We're the people that are introducing new brands if someone's going to introduce something new. And
Right.
even when women are single, they're making those purchasing decisions by themselves with no other kind of like consultation.
Mhm.
And, I just find that when I'm thinking about women in their buying process, it's not just your regular, hey, I'm aware of this. I have some objections. Their marketing kind of answers some of the questions through the frequently asked questions and now I'm going to buy things. No, that's not how it works. There's like historical scripts there where, we are taught to question everything
Mhm.
being young girls. And so, why wouldn't those scripts show up when we're buying things, especially when we're purchasing things that are of a higher quality, that costs more, investment pieces? And I'm not just talking about material investments, we're talking about things like homes, we're talking about
Mm.
things like cars, we're thinking about actual investments. And so, just understanding that, hey, that takes a little bit longer and you cannot rush that process. But when you do make that conversion, when you make that sell, she's going to stick with you because she knows that you went through all of that hoop jumping in order to convince her that, hey, this is something that's going to solve a problem in her life. But, not necessarily invalidating her concerns, but more so saying, hey, these are your concerns. And I totally validate that. You're totally right for feeling that way. You're not hysterical.
Mhm.
You're not wrong. You shouldn't be forced to think that, oh, you're just a hysterical woman. You're just a
Right.
nagging,
Emotional.
emotional, worrisome woman.
Right,
Don't
right.
worry about it. Don't worry about it. Just buy it.
Uh-huh.
I'll see
Yes, so
myself
true.
out now.
Ah,
So
You
that
actually are never like that.
Yeah, of course not. No, I shouldn't say of course not. So that brings up a question popped into my head. I know the answer, but is there any deeper insights as far as marketing towards women versus men, as well as the retention? I find that interesting. I didn't know that women tended to be more brand loyal or loyal to a brand at a certain point. I'm very brand loyal, but do me dirty once and I may not be brand loyal anymore. I'm just curious, is that really gender specific that you've found in any of your workings, or is it just something you've observed?
it's definitely gender specific. And it's all just like socialization, the difference between how little girls are socialized and little boys are
Mm.
typically socialized. I'm not saying that this is across the board, but I am saying that most of the board looks like this. And so when little girls are socialized, we're socialized to question our appearance. We're socialized to question our intelligence. We're socialized to question pretty much everything about ourselves because a lot of people make money from women being insecure. A lot of people
Mm.
make money from that. And so, if women are not questioning themselves, then they're sure of themselves. And if they're sure of themselves, then they're sure that they don't want to buy all of your extra crap. So,
Uh-huh.
that's something that corporations don't necessarily want happening. And so there is a lot that goes into this manipulation. It's not just your regular marketing campaigns, it shows up in media as well. And so I think that that is really the space where people don't focus that much, but media is really where the most influence is happening. A lot of
Mhm.
people aren't thinking about things outside of even social media. And a lot of people, believe it or not, still aren't on social media, but a lot of the things that we discuss shows up on like their Netflix feed or Hulu
Yeah.
or even, your regular sitcoms and things like that. And so we're all being taught lessons about ourselves through these stories.
Mm.
Gotta love target marketing.
Yeah. I am curious your thoughts on looking at marketing maybe like 10 years ago versus now versus where you think it will go in 5 years. What are your thoughts on all that? Past versus present versus future.
Yeah, so I study everything based off of sociology, economics, and politics. And if we're looking at the state of the world right now, all of those are up in the air.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So honestly, it's a time where I'm just keeping my head down and I'm looking left, right, front, center, all the way around 360, 180, and just figuring out what are people thinking right now. There's a lot of division and that just
Mhm.
means that there's more work for me to do. I mean, if we're all in
Yeah.
marketing, we understand segmentation and so all women aren't a monolith and so if we're not a monolith then I need to know, hey, this is how this woman's thinking. For example, thinking a lot about women and how they lie politically and how that
Mm.
affects their buying behavior. We've definitely seen a lot of boycotts economically, and we're not just focusing on the women who did participate in the boycotts. We're focusing on the women that did counter boycotts or
Mm.
counter buying and protest and breaking the protests and things like that. So, when we had the blackout days, who were the women that
Yes.
participated? Who were the women's that said no, the No King's Day, the women's marches, all of those things? We cannot assume that all women are for those movements just because those movements are for them.
Mhm.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of
There's been
change.
Yes, yes, a lot of disruption in the world, and I'm so keeping in that same lane, where would you like to see marketing trend
Mm.
to if you were to have your own? I mean, you do have your own stake in this, right? So if you have an influence
Yeah.
in the industry, where would you want to take it to, regardless of the current political climate, right? Because it is so up in the air. If you had if you just had your way and you could shape it any which way you wanted to?
Yeah, honestly, if I had it my way, then we all would just be respecting the differences in one another. I know that sounds very we are the world and a little bit simplified for what we're going through, but I think this all goes back to respect, and respect needs to happen in
Mm.
marketing as well. It starts by respecting the person we're selling to, not making them a number or kind of avatar on a piece of paper inside of a program. So understanding that there's still a person at the end of this and they're nuanced and they have all kinds of different experiences, especially in America. We are a mixed pot. We are, kind of a junk drawer, so to speak.
I love that.
And so, when I think about us, and especially the women in this country, we are so different, so unique, so diverse, and we're diverse in the ways that people aren't really talking about.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. No,
No,
you
you
first.
go. You go.
No,
I
you
was
go.
going to ask you, who do you surround yourself with to keep you inspired, and hold this energy? Because sometimes I'm sure it can be exhausting. Some days you feel like, I don't know, owning businesses or, trying to make a difference in the world. Sometimes you get a little defeated. So do you ever feel like that? And what do you do? Who do you surround yourself with to kind of inspire you and keep you moving forward?
Absolutely, I do. I think that that's on a weekly basis.
Mm,
I surround
same.
myself with a mental health care team, to be
I
quite
love
honest,
that.
and not
Wow.
just in a medical way. I mean, like my friends. There are my friends that I can call when this kind of crisis is going on, and not just
Hmm.
using my friends for crisis, right?
Right.
When there's something to celebrate, like let's all celebrate together. That is so good for your soul. And one of the things that I do that's really kind of out there, and I tell people this, that studies show that this is better for depression than antidepressants, is dancing. Get out
Really?
there and dance. Get out
Oh,
there and dance,
Wow.
wow.
guys.
Oh, I
Yes.
love where do you go dance?
Inside of my room, in the shower, anywhere,
Oh, I love that.
I mean, I'm a dancing fool. I have to hold myself back because I mean, I'm the kind of person that back in the day when they were doing those flash dances and stuff,
Oh, yeah.
I always wished
Ah,
on a shooting star that there would be a flash dance wherever I was. So,
that's awesome.
Wow. It's crazy. I've witnessed 3 of those flash mobs in my lifetime.
what? You are
Yeah.
so lucky.
Yeah, and in random places. At one time in Detroit, one time in Hershey, Pennsylvania, and I forget where the third one was. But yeah, just
That's
totally
so
random
fun.
places. So yes, that's flash mobs are wild. That is I hope you achieve that dream someday
Yes.
because it is
Thank
spectacular.
you.
It is
It's very
spectacular.
close. Very
So
close right
Uh-huh.
here.
so a bit of a taking us back to the coaching kind of stuff. I'm always curious, coach to coach, how do you and you kind of answered this already, but I'm curious if there's anything additional. I find myself absorbing a lot of toxic qualities from others, and a lot of times
Mm.
self-care, right, is hard, especially when you're in an intense coaching situation or really dealing with some hard issues with people and really, absorbing that pain or that toxic quality. What other methods besides dancing, which that's the first time I've ever heard that, which I love. That's so fun. But what other things do you do to kind of decompress? And I call it wringing out the sponge. I feel like I'm a toxic sponge, so I got to
Or
wring it
filling
out
yourself
every now and
back
again.
up.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that I do is journal.
Mm.
There's something so cathartic about writing something down. I am an old school girl. I like just like your regular ratty spiral notebook, nothing fancy. And I go through those things so quickly, but more than anything, just having again that trusted circle of like advisors where you know that they'll keep your confidence in those kinds of things. And I know as a coach, we definitely don't breach the confidence of our clients, but there's definitely ways that you can express yourself to that close circle and be like, hey, there's some toxic things going on. And what did you do? Because, we're not on an island by ourselves is a quote that I heard, and that
Yeah.
there's nothing that anyone has gone through that nobody's ever gone through.
So
And
true.
so it's just about finding the person that's gone through it before you, that is in the closest proximity, that can help you with that process of getting to the other side and trying out different things.
It's awesome. I love that answer. So when you're talking about, and I'm looking up here because I have a screen up here. I don't want anyone to think I'm not paying attention. But I love how I'm looking at your bullet points and developed research-based foundation for understanding human behavior. If we double click into that, tell us a little bit more about kind of what research has helped you understand about human behavior, right? Or vice versa, what human behavior inspired you to do research around it? Because I often found in corporate America, and that's where I've spent the bulk of my time, as soon as somebody walks through the doors of work, and Catherine's heard me say this a million times, something changes. Your personality changes. You're no longer kind of like, hey, I want to sit down and break bread with these people, right? You're focused. You might be a little more starchy, stiff. There's an unrelaxed quality, at least I have found, when people walk through the doors of work. So that was one observation or pattern that I witnessed over and over and over again. And this subservient kind of, I need to achieve. I need to continue to achieve, even though I'm not getting praised. So I'm curious, is there anything in the industry that you've seen that really resonated with you that you wanted to dive into more research about, or any behaviors that just kind of struck you as, I never really realized that until I kind of witnessed it over and over again?
Yeah. So, one of the things that I recently discovered, and just like you said, Drew, it is the human behavior that I observe first. And then I'm like, okay, there's somebody who's researched this. I need to figure out what's going on here. And one of those things is genealogy, and
Mm.
how is kind of the evolution of people through behavior. So we don't necessarily mutate anymore, but there is some behavior that we have inherited through our personal backgrounds. So, for example, there has been research that says that even the descendants of people who went through the Holocaust, they still experience anxiety. They still experience a lot of the remnants that their ancestors did. You know, the same thing can be said for women. There's a lot of behavior that women have had to participate in order for us to survive.
Mm.
And so a lot of that shows up in even our modern world today, which is why we'll see things like people going back and wanting to be trad wives. And there, if you want to be a traditional wife, that's fine. But why? Why? I mean, literally, that's where I started. Why? And not in a judging way, because it's not my place to judge anything like that. But just to try to understand, why are people attracted to that way of living, even though from seemingly what I'm seeing, there's no autonomy there. There's
Mm.
Mhm.
there's there's no sense of self there. And so I would wonder, why would someone not want that sense of self? And when I looked at the research, a lot of women had to eliminate their sense of self in order to survive. We weren't
Wow.
allowed to work. Our work was in the home. And so, when you do work in the home, I'm not saying that it's not rewarding. What I am saying is that if you aren't intentional, then you can lose yourself. And so a lot of the things that we are attracted to should, analyzing, should think about, hey, instead of just saying, this is what I like and I like what I like and I do what I do and I just am who I am. We hear that all the time.
Mhm.
Why? Why are you the way you are?
Right. I love that
Yeah.
question. Critical thinking skills, and Drew and I have talked about this. We feel that critical thinking is not so common much anymore, and thinking through the whys of things and really thinking about why people act the way they do. Why is this happening? And questioning isn't a bad thing. It's good because you're understanding.
Yeah. And I also think
Absolutely.
something that came up for me as you were talking is, people don't focus on the relationship with themselves.
Mhm.
How is my relationship with myself? And is that healthy or is it toxic? Like, am I constantly insecure? Do I constantly talk poorly about myself? Do I have some sort of complex. So I think that's important. And I love the way you phrased it. And that's just, kept popping in my head is this relationship with self, is it healthy? And even through this whole conversation, the one statement that comes up for me a lot too is, the hardest person to lead is yourself. So it's very inspiring to see a leader being able to lead themselves and lead others. So I am extremely impressed with just the breadth of work that you've been able to culminate from truly inspiring others, right? And through the grit and the grind, which is inspiring. When people see people rolling up their sleeves and truly, sinking their teeth into this stuff, it's inspiring. It can inspire others. And I love the respect thing. I think our problems are not that difficult to solve. They're easy. It takes a lot of effort. So to be mutually respectful, you have to learn to bite your tongue. You have to learn to speak with tact, right? Without making an enemy. You have to learn how to deliver a message or feedback without being cruel. So the humane aspect of things often gets lost because it takes too much time. So talk to me a little bit about time, right? How much time do you invest? And this is such a hard question to answer, but in your experience, do you find that connecting with people and building that trust takes a lot of time? Or are you a quick trust builder where you can pretty much capitalize on that trust capital, right? I call it like debits and credits we're putting into the trust bucket, but it only takes one mistake to empty the account, right? And then I have to work at building it up again. Do you find that people now in this day, as opposed to maybe 5 years ago, or more or less trusting?
Less trusting, absolutely less trusting. I think we're all conspiracy theorists at this point. Honestly, I mean, I put on my tinfoil hat every morning. And so, I mean, it's no different out in the world. People really don't trust people nowadays. And they definitely don't trust corporations. They don't think that they have
True.
their best interest in mind. And they're absolutely correct. And that, there's not a lot of people looking out for the end user, the end customer, so to speak. And so when I think about trust, yes and no, in that, yes, I can get people to trust me quickly because I'm okay with being vulnerable. I'm okay with telling my story. And typically, especially when working with women, is that when you are vulnerable with them first, they kind of feel like they have to do that exchange. And I'm not trying to manipulate people to tell me their deepest,
Sure.
darkest secrets. No. But, it's just to help people let their guard down. Now, to continue in that trust, that's going to take time and, action and things like that. And so I will say yes and no. Yes, I can get people to trust me quickly in that they're not thinking that I'm a snake oil salesman, but at the same time, they do need to see more of me doing what I said I'm going to do.
That's always a hard thing to kind of, I know when I was consulting doing this work, like the deliverable, right? How do you deliver the value of coaching? And I always found that to be really a difficult thing. I was like, you'll experience it. You're not going to get a playbook. You're not going to get like all these artifacts, but you will experience a change. Good or bad, you will experience a change if you truly subscribe to the work. It's kind of like, I hate to equate coaching to therapy because I feel like coaching is focused forward and therapy deals with the past, but it has a cathartic quality about it where you truly are building towards something and not reminiscing about things that got you here, right? We're here now. How are we going to get to the next spot? Let's coach towards that, because you don't ever coach towards an injury, right? You would coach away from the injury. So we're starting at square one again. So how do you deliver the value to your clients up front? How do you kind of sell the service that you provide in a way that, and I know trust is a big thing, but how do you find people for this work? Is it just through grit and grind?
Is through grit and grind. And then also, I am the transformation that I'm trying to invoke in others. right? And so I always knew that as a coach that I cannot try to transform my clients without being transformed myself. And so when people are working with me, they have been with me mostly since the beginning because I've been so
Wow.
vulnerable about my business journey from the start. I mean, when I was younger and starting in this, when I was 25 younger, I lived on live. I lived on live. I lived on social
Hmm.
media, doing the BTS behind the scenes, getting people like their crowdsourced opinion. And so everyone that has followed me has felt like this has been their business along the way as well, because it has always been something that I've been willing to share. And there have been times where it's just been me working in the business, but it's always somehow been we whenever I'm talking about it. And so when I am finding people, it's because they've been silently watching me for years and I just had no idea, but they had been watching me. They kept hearing my name come up in rooms where I wasn't even there. And so,
Wow.
like that's the power I think of people, and that getting that trust and getting people to really trust you enough to not only work with you, but tell others to work with you. That's so invaluable.
I love the community aspect that you bring to the table as well. It's so hard, but so rewarding to finally start to build community and then have the community to continue to build itself. So it starts to scale at that point, and it's amazing to watch, especially when you just start that fire and just watch it burn in a controlled way, not like a wildfire all over the place. But I love building community. That's something that I really enjoy doing as well. So I love to hear that people have been part of your journey and have stayed with you. That's
Yeah.
impressive.
Yeah.
Retention is impressive. Really
Yes.
is.
Yes. I'm very grateful.
Yeah, I also think too, just based on hearing you talk, the honesty and authenticity that you really you shine in those areas. And people, especially now, really desire to be around people that are authentic and honest. And you said it back a few minutes ago about corporate, people don't trust their companies they work for, and why should they? They don't invest in the employee anymore. They don't invest in the customers. So people nowadays, from just interactions that I've had, they're really yearning for community and honesty and authenticity. And I think that works really well for you.
Yes, absolutely. I am on fire right now, as my husband has said.
I love
He's
that.
like, wow, baby, you're on fire right now.
I believe it. I wanted to ask you about your speaking engagements. And I wanted to hear more about what you've done, what topics you talk about, and where you speak.
Yeah, so I can speak anywhere. So if anyone is listening, I'm going to
Do you
plug
also
myself
dance
right
for people?
now.
Dance
Absolutely.
offs?
I can do a dance coming on stage, if that's something that you would like,
Special
event
request.
organizers, like come on my way.
Uh-huh.
I can lead a group dance at the beginning, get everybody loosened up.
Love that.
Um, but yeah, no, so I speak everywhere, specifically anywhere where they're wanting to know more about women consumers, women
Mm,
customers, why women buy. I really love speaking on the the nuances of why women buy. And there's
mm.
a couple of different phenomena I cover. One is purchase panic. And so that's not buyer's remorse. It happens before we even give
Oh,
over our
that's
credit
funny.
card. It's
Uh-huh.
like all of the question scripts that are happening in our head, like, do I deserve this? Am I going to use it enough?
Yeah.
What's the cost per wear? All of these different things. And then there's the breakup theory where there's a time where we are breaking up with something, and the hardest part of a breakup is what to do with that leftover time. And so, when someone figures out how to fill that time, your competitor figures out how to fill that time, so to
Mm.
speak, then that is when she completely breaks up. So, I'm not saying that women don't move on to another product until they have a plan B, but kind of a little bit. And then last but not least, I give the example of Pine Sol versus Lysol. You know,
Yeah.
they're both very long-standing cleaning solutions, and your grandmother had her favorite. I don't know why there's a rivalry there, but there always was. There always was.
Right.
And so she,
Oh,
she stood 10 toes down on whatever one she wanted. So mine was Pine Sol. She was definitely obsessed with Pine Sol. And so that's what my mom used and I use. And so I talk about how the legacy of what people bought before is the reason why some people buy the things that they buy now, especially women.
That is so true.
I
Yes.
never heard that analogy. I love it. Pine Sol
We've
versus Lysol. I love
we've
it.
definitely talked about, I told Drew, I said, there are so many things that have done in my early 20s, like teen years, early 20s, that my mom, that I figured out later in life why I do them is because my mom did them. It's using a particular product, making a certain type of food, a recipe. And it's funny how, your family or your friends, things influence you, to and then you wonder, you're like, why am I doing this? I don't even like this recipe. Or, actually, I really don't even like this product. So it is interesting how people, especially family, can influence your decision making.
Absolutely.
Yes, definitely. I mean, more than we would like sometimes, right? I don't
Oh,
know. Is that
yeah.
just me?
No, it's not. I find myself, I don't dry my clothes because I grew up, we never used the dryer. So I'm like, I don't dry my clothes. So I don't know why. Just we never use the dryer. So that's like one of those patterns. But I feel out of place saying that now. I feel uncomfortable. Sorry. I'm just kidding.
Okay, you're safe here.
Yeah. Safe
Safe
zone.
space, right? Safe
So,
space, safe space.
Champagne, where do you see yourself going in your business in the next just even 6 months? What are things that you want to achieve or do? What are some goals?
Yeah, so there's a lot of irons in the fire right now. And, it's only Q1.
Hmm.
And really where I see myself is that I see myself having given my first signature event, the Women's Trend Summit. I'm
Love that.
working with an outfit right now. Hopefully, I can make the announcement next week. Fingers crossed. But
Awesome.
either way, it's going to happen no matter what. And I'm very excited about it. I have a team around that. I'm so excited to continue with the women's consumer behavior work and speaking about it, really reaching more organizations and getting them passionate about selling to women in a new way,
Mm.
because I think that Drew, you kind of touched on it a little bit in that, hurry up and buy. That's pretty much the sentiment in marketing. And so getting people to understand that a slow sell isn't necessarily a bad sell. It's just that it takes a little bit longer. But the great thing is that 92% of women, we pass along information about
Mm.
products and services that we love. And
I
so
believe that.
you get that woman and all of her friends and all of her family and things like that. And so that's not only retention, but that's also, kind of word of mouth marketing that you weren't even necessarily expecting.
Right.
I gotta say, our house would be in shambles if it wasn't for like the moms of Frisco sharing all the good people that they've used over the years that are trustworthy and do good work. So
Recommendations, word of mouth.
word of mouth is huge, and I feel like it's becoming less and less, but so much more needed. I feel
Hmm.
like the whole, like the whispered out, like just the community aspect of things, of sharing those nuggets of wisdom is so critical. But people gatekeep. I feel like people
Yeah.
gatekeep more now than ever before, where it's like, that's mine, that's my info, I can't share that. where it's like it's good to support local businesses. So speaking of supporting local businesses, how can people support you in your efforts, and what's the best way for people to reach out to you, support you, continue to follow you with your journey, and just help you share your success?
Yeah, so the best way to support me is actually taking my free assessment and figuring
Mm.
out why women aren't buying with you. Are they not buying your service or your product? And it's a free 3-minute assessment on my website, and it'll walk you through the exact objections, pain points that the women are going through that aren't buying with you. And then also, it gives you a little guidance on how to overcome that through empathy forward, copy rewrites, or, getting new brand ambassadors on board that people can relate to, whatever that may look like. That is actually the best way to support me because it helps me learn. In
Mm.
addition to helping you, it helps me learn and think about things constantly in a different way because women are very nuanced. We are so complex. And so that definitely shows up in our buying behavior and how we consume things. And so that's the best possible way to support me. The second best possible way to support me is to follow me on LinkedIn, connect with me there. Shoot me a little message, say that you heard me from the episode, and I'd love to connect. I'm always down to do a collaboration meeting or something like that. I'm not a gatekeeper in that way. I really do love hopping on a call with anybody and just seeing where they're at and seeing if there's alignment anywhere.
That's
Awesome.
awesome. We will absolutely share all that info in the show notes so people can
Yes.
link up with you. We'll share your LinkedIn info as well.
And the
Is there anything
assessment.
in closing, that you would want to share with our vast audience here that we may have not covered, or is there anything additional you would like to share about your services or businesses that is important for people to know?
Well, I think I've gotten all of the serious stuff out of the way. But I just want to say to take that little dancing tip seriously.
Mm.
You
Absolutely.
know, even if you're taking 5 minutes and you're doing it, and I know it's kind of embarrassing, which is why I lock my door when I do it, because I'm like, okay, I'm locking my door now, and telling my husband, I'm locking the door now. I'm starting
Dance
the
time.
music now. I'm gonna be dancing for the next 30 to 45 minutes. But
Oh,
you can
that's
start
funny.
off with 5 minutes and
Uh-huh.
seriously, you will have a brand new attitude. I mean, it's to the point where even when I have a bad day, I'll just go up to my husband and I'll just like dance it out. And it's
Uh-huh.
funny because you really can't be sad if you're dancing. It's like
True.
literally try crying and dancing at the same time. I dare you.
I love it. So
Great
a
advice.
challenge out to everybody. Try and
Yes.
cry and dance, or be sad and dance, and report back, comment back, and see if it was hopefully it wasn't successful. So
Hopefully.
yes, I love that. I love leaving on that note. I love the dancing note. We're gonna have to try that, Catherine. We're
Oh,
we're gonna
we
be
will.
dancing. Yeah.
We will be.
I don't know if anybody wants to see me dance, so I'll be locking the door as well and closing all the windows and curtains so I don't get looked at as like I'm having some sort of anxiety attack or stroke. But in any case, thank you so much for joining us, Champagne.
Yes.
I would love to talk more. I am fascinated by the coaching industry. And so I absolutely really enjoyed you walking us through kind of your point of view. And this is an aspect of coaching I hadn't been exposed to. So thank you. Thank you for sharing. And I
Of course, of course.
certainly enjoyed it and learned a ton.
Love the convo.
I'm very curious now about more of this. So I will definitely be reaching out to you on LinkedIn for further conversations.
Oh, please do.
And on a final note, what's your favorite place to eat in Dallas?
Mm.
Nothing like putting you on the spot.
Well, I do love Dakota's. I love Dakota's. It's my favorite place to get a steak, and it's so dang
Mm.
on classy. And
Uh-huh.
I love that it's underground. You take that elevator down, and you have the man at the piano, and it's just
Love that.
crooning, and it's such a sexy atmosphere, stuff like that.
Yes.
Love
Oh,
it.
that's fun.
Dakotas. Okay. Well, it's nice to meet a fellow Dallas person. And we really appreciate you being on the show today.
Yes. Thank
And
you.
It was a great conversation, and we'll wrap up on episode 18 of The Well. I'm Drew.
And I'm Kat.
We'll talk to you.
Yeah.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.